Hello and welcome to Odds on La Liga and Spanish Super Cup this weekend, match day 19. And again, we have the Spanish Super Cup Wednesday, Thursday, the semifinals. We are going to analyze these games, of course, not the final because we don't know who are going to play them, Alvaro, but we have Barcelona, I think, as big favorites, especially seeing what happened also last weekend in La Liga. They suffered. I think they have their flaws. But they are, without a doubt, in my opinion, the best club in Spain right now.
They are, but I don't think they are that favorites. Here I disagree a little bit. Look, obviously Barcelona has 4 more points than Real Madrid in La Liga, and I believe that 11 more points than Atlético de Madrid, who is probably the 3rd favorite in the competition. And Athletic de Bilbao, I would say that they are definitely the least favorites because this season they haven't won big games apart from beating Atlético de Madrid in La Catedral, in San Mamés, but then in the Champions League or in the league they have suffered against tough opposition. So I think that it's going to be a little bit more tight between Atlético, Barcelona and Real Madrid for what has happened this season. Real Madrid has beaten Barcelona and Atlético de Madrid has beaten Real Madrid. So in the head-to-head, these 3 teams, they are more similar than it may look. Even Barcelona suffered a little bit to beat Atlético de Madrid in La Liga, even though at the end the scoreline was stronger or bigger than the difference between two sides suggested. So that's what I'm talking about. Just the head-to-head, how Real Madrid beat Barcelona in October. I know that this Barcelona is slightly different now, with Gerard Martin playing as a centre-back, but I don't have a lot of guarantees about Barcelona's defense. I have spoken about that. Even against Espanyol, a great game from Joan Garcia was needed to win that game, and I think Real Madrid can beat Barcelona. Maybe without ''Mbappé it's going to be more difficult, yes, of course, but Barcelona's high line is basically an invitation to score for some other players. And then Atlético de Madrid beat Real Madrid 5-2. So when they want to make that game competitive, because for them it's very important, they manage to do it. So for me it's quite open, Edu. For me it's quite open.
I was gonna say actually, if and it's a big if, Real Madrid beat Atlético de Madrid on Thursday. Well, let's see what happens. Let me introduce, of course, this new video and encourage you to comment, to let me know also in the comments who are you backing in this Super Cup. And don't forget to press the like, to subscribe. Let's go on now with the show. Well, Alvaro, let's start then with this Spanish Super Cup on Wednesday evening. Barcelona Athletic Club in Saudi Arabia. By the way, Barcelona to win 1.5. You mentioned how they suffered against Espanyol, with Joan Garcia being the best player on the pitch. Still shaky, the defense. Apparently 𝐿𝐭𝐚𝐲 is in the way to Barcelona. A strange signing, in my opinion, but Fermín is a game changer, or was a game changer, and I want to highlight also Lamine Yamal, deep in form lately, not shining. And well, Alvaro, you mentioned also that the Athletic are the least favorites. They are suffering a lot. They are suffering a lot this season, and also against Barcelona, they lost 4-0 in La Liga. They haven't scored in the last 3 games against the Blaugranas, losing the last 4. So very few things to be optimistic, I guess, for Athletic.
Yeah, if this game was in San Mamés, then Athletic will have a bigger chance because stats say that. But Athletic Club Bilbao against Barcelona away does very badly, and in neutral venue, I would say that Barcelona remains the favorite because they are better, even though Athletic Club Bilbao beat them in the Super Cup final in 2021. I remember that very well. But for this game, I think that I have to take into consideration how Athletic de Bilbao has performed against big teams this season, and how much Ernesto Valverde prioritizes La Liga over other competitions. This Super Cup, in a way, is a bit of an inconvenience for Athletic Club, who drew against Osasuna last Saturday after conceding the first goal, and then in the second half they played decently and they managed to get the point, which is fine. But Barcelona is a different story. Look, defensively, they're going to suffer. Their high line is an invitation for many teams. But Athletic de Bilbao, I has never exploited this high line as well as Real Madrid or Chelsea has to start with, or even Sevilla back in September or October. Athletic de Bilbao hasn't been able to exploit Hansi Flick's system, and Barcelona, we know one thing for certain, they are going to score. They're scoring a lot of goals. Athletic Club Bilbao has a big problem with scoring, and this is going to determine the game for me. Athletic de Bilbao is a team that relies on, if not clean sheets, conceding very little. But conceding very little against Barcelona is very difficult. Barcelona is a team that has collected 49 points in La Liga, and they have an average maybe of 2.7 goals per game this season. Even against Espanyol, they had a bad game, but then the quality of their players, Olmo, Fermín, Lewandowski, made the difference, and I think that this is going to happen again. So I'm going to go for something plain and simple. Barcelona to beat Athletic is good for a safe bet, in my opinion. But Barcelona to beat Athletic Club and over 2.5 goals in that game, 190, is my favorite bet.
Well, big favorites, Barcelona, still with some issues, but we are going to see them, I guess, especially in the Champions League. And then on Thursday, we have Atlético de Madrid, Real Madrid. Here we have really high odds for both outcomes. Atlético de Madrid to win or Real Madrid to win is 2.4. Of course, in the mind, the game we saw earlier in the season at the Metropolitano, where Atlético de Madrid destroyed Real Madrid. It's very important also to notice that 𝗵𝗵𝗀 is not available. He didn't travel to Saudi Arabia. Also, Barrios is out for Atlético de Madrid. And I don't know, Alvaro, but even despite the big win against Betis, I still see so many problems around Real Madrid. I'm not sure also about the future of Xabi Alonso if Real Madrid lose this game. And the big news or the good news was Gonzalo scoring a hat-trick. I think this is going to be a really level derby, in my opinion, full of tension. I also don't see a clear favorite.
No, me neither. I think that, okay, Real Madrid is having a better season. Let's don't forget that they will end up the first half of the competition with a very good amount of points, despite, the doubts around Xabi Alonso. If they replicate the point tally of the first half in the second half of the season, they are going to get to 90, which is more than good, I would say. The problem is that Barcelona has a projection of 98, and also Real Madrid is not playing very well, but there are a few things that are okay, I would say. Their defense is not conceding a lot of goals, 17 in La Liga out of 19, and they have scored an okay amount of goals as well, if not good, 41 in 19 league matches. The problem is that the team is slightly slow when it comes to attacking. They depend a lot on the individual talent. Their best individual talent is not there, Kylian Mbappé. True, Gonzalo scored a hat-trick the other day, but it's not the same power force, even though I think Gonzalo can be a very useful player for Real Madrid, and I'm going to follow his career very closely because I believe that there is a very interesting striker in there. And then Real Madrid, in the big games this season, they have a mixed bag of results. Probably the best one was against Barcelona, but then they lost to Liverpool, they lost to Atlético de Madrid, they lost to Manchester City. So that has to be taken into consideration. Real Madrid has been very good, or good at least, with the lesser sides. It's not a flat track bully, but against the big sides, the results have been really, really mixed. So for this game, look, there is one result that comes straight to my eyes, which is the draw. Because I remember that this game sometimes in the Super Cup has gone to the extra time or the additional time. Draw 360 could be very interesting after 90 minutes. I think that the value is very good, and these sides are capable of cancelling each other out. Otherwise, I think that none of the defenses, especially Atléticos, are particularly great, and some attackers are quality in Atlético de Madrid and Real Madrid, despite Julián Álvarez's form, a player who has been slightly scrutinized lately because he's not playing as good as last season. So over 2.5 goals, 171 is something that I like as well. And there is a big incognita here, a big mystery here. We know that Atlético de Madrid relies, or our betting on Atlético de Madrid relies on the home and away factor. At home are great, away from home are poor. Here, it doesn't apply exactly, but we can say that they are playing kind of away, even though it doesn't apply exactly because it's a neutral venue. So I'm telling our followers to also keep that in mind. Outside of Atletico's ground, Atletico has been very poor as well. All that said, they take this game against Real Madrid very seriously, and this is maybe the quickest route for Atletico de Madrid to get a trophy this season. They only have to be competitive in 2 games and win them, or at least draw and then win them in stoppage time or penalties. So that's why I'm going to go for the draw, 360. I'm chasing odds here.
Well, we have to say, in my opinion, the season of Atlético Madrid have been really poor, considering they are 11 points behind Barcelona at the end of the year. Last season, they were winter champions, and then they crumbled in the second half of the season. Let's see what happens also, because Julián Álvarez is in bad form this season. Well, very interesting, this Super Cup, very important, I think, for what is going to happen in the season, especially, I guess, in this derby, because the loser is going to be doomed and is going to be heavily criticized, no matter if it's Atlético de Madrid or Real Madrid. Then let's see what happens in the final, very likely against Barcelona. Well, let me know, guys, what you are betting in this Super Cup. In Smart Bet, Alvaro, we have over 2.5 goals for both games. Actually, is the top tip of our AI. Both in Barcelona Athletic and Atlético de Madrid, Real Madrid going for the over in the derby, pays 1.76. So it's a good bet, good money for that. Then also we have La Liga match day 19 this weekend, starting on Friday. Getafe, Real Sociedad. There is kind of a traffic jam, Alvaro, in the bottom half of the standings, I think. Until Elche, everyone could be in danger. Only 6 points from the relegation until the 9th point, which is Elche, including Getafe, for instance, 5 points above relegation. They are not winning. They are winless in the last 5 games in all competitions. They couldn't beat also Rayo. They were lucky to get even a point. And Real Sociedad with the new manager, Materazzo, I guess it was positive to get a point against Atlético de Madrid, but only 2 points away also from the bottom 3, winless in the last 5 La Liga games. I guess, as Tom Rennie would say, screams draw, this one.
Well, the draw is 3.0, and it's between my picks. I think that both sides could do with it. I also believe that if one of them scores, especially Getafe, the other one is going to find it very difficult to score back. Because none of these sides are particularly high scoring, we know that, and because, especially Real Sociedad, I suppose, the morale is not the highest in this side's camp at the minute. Getafe started the season well, and we can say that now that their dynamic is not the greatest. We can say that. I mean, there is no problem in saying that. They have collected only 1 point out of the last 12. And Real Sociedad, well, they've got this little hype of having a new manager who started with a draw against Atlético de Madrid, which is not bad at the end of the day. Let's see if Materazzo does well. But the Real Sociedad as well, there are things that we have to tell our audience as well. They have accumulated 12 games without a clean sheet in La Liga. So Getafe probably knows about that, and they are going to attack Real Sociedad properly, a team that doesn't have a proper holding midfielder, and that cost the team a little bit since Zubimendi departed. But yeah, for this game, look, normally Friday games are a little bit, for some reason, low scoring. Well, I know the reason. Some of the less interesting sides in La Liga are picked for Friday, unfortunately for them. And also they are low scoring, and there is a tendency for these games to be quite contested. So I think the draw for 3.0 will be a very good result here. Maybe a first half draw can be a very interesting one as well. I don't discard that option, and it happens a lot, the first half draw. We know about that. And that would pay, let me tell you exactly, 188. It's an interesting one as well. Normally the first half draw pays around 2, maybe 220. Here is slightly lower because it's pretty obvious that these two teams can cancel out each other. But yeah, I will go for the overall draw 3.0. I think that the money is good.
Okay, then on Saturday we have Oviedo Betis. Oviedo also with a new manager, the third one this season, debut with a draw, but now they are bottom of the table. And Betis, they were so poor against Real Madrid, very poor, basically no defense. But we have to look at Betis to win. Is around 2.0. Is concerning also the form of Anthony, Alvaro.
Well, he hasn't done a lot lately. I think that new actors, new players have come onto the stage when Anthony hasn't stepped up. 𝐿𝐭𝐴 came back. I think that Aitor Ruibal has had interesting spells of form as well. Pablo Fornals. But yeah, I think that the last result of Betis was disappointing because Betis didn't compete and defensively was not good at Santiago Bernabéu. But Betis haven't lost away, which is an interesting one to keep in mind. And Oviedo, the run has been very poor.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. And Oviedo, is a team that doesn't score goals. We spoke about that. The run is as follows: 6 draws, 6 losses, and maybe a perfect representation of what a mess Oviedo has been is the fact that they have had 3 managers, or the fact that a player like Viñas has been sent off 3 times already. How can this happen in a football team that has a short squad? I just don't get it. All that said, I think that this game is a little bit tricky because I didn't like what I saw from Betis the other day. I am not gonna commit myself a lot. It's true that Betis winning away pays well, but on the other hand, I think that Betis could go through a deep of bad form right now after all the accumulated fatigue in Europe and blah blah blah. So this game is not the kind of game that I would use for an ACCA. I think that here I'm gonna give an advice, but personally I'm gonna keep my money away from this. But there is also a slight opportunity in Oviedo being competitive at the start. Something like an Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Oviedo just in the first half. It pays 182. But anyway, you say that Betis to win pays 2.0. I think that is reasonable considering that Betis away has been good. But this game for me is a little bit of a pass. I didn't like what I saw from Real Betis in the last game.
And again, Oviedo struggling a lot to score goals. Then we have Villarreal Alavés. Villarreal doing an amazing season in La Liga. And now is their only competition. They are third in the standings with 2 games in hand. So they could be +6 from Atlético de Madrid. They won again in a difficult pitch in Elche. No one had won before at the Martínez Valero. And Alavés, another team in trouble, Alvaro. They couldn't beat Oviedo. They lost to Osasuna. So only 3 points away from the relegation.
Yeah, and they haven't won since they beat Real Sociedad in a basket derby. That was at the start of December. But then, they have collected 1 point out of 9. And again, Alavés is one of those sides that represent a little bit what the Liga is. Teams that are more, or let's put it this way, more keen on defending than attacking. And teams that the biggest aspiration they have right now is to be competitive and to stay in La Liga one more season. But there is no dreaming for these teams. We know that if Alavés ends up in the 16th place, they will consider that a success. And that's something that could be applicable to Mallorca right now, probably Girona, probably Osasuna, probably Getafe, and Valencia, Levante, and Oviedo, of course, because they are in relegation. This is the reality, and they are playing against Villarreal. Villarreal ended up 2025 with 3 losses, not in La Liga, but in all competitions, and I think that they needed a win, and they got a win against Elche, scoring goals, again, being vertical. 𝗵𝐿𝐻𝐿 is little by little getting form. Moleiro, a player that came from Las Palmas and he's supposed to be the replacement of Alex Baena, has scored 7 goals already, by the way. That was a very clever signing that went under the radar a little bit. And yeah, I can see Villarreal winning here. Villarreal at home has been good. And Villarreal is going to be soon out of the Champions League. They are going to focus just on La Liga from now on until late May. And I think they have a real opportunity to qualify for the Champions League easily. I think that Atlético is still the favorite to finish third, but I don't see Betis, especially Espanyol, catching up with Villarreal. I just don't see it. I think Villarreal are going to hit Champions League for another year in a row, and that's going to be very good for them just to keep their best players, because they did a lot of investment, a big investment last summer. And I think they are going to win here because they've got clearly a great opportunity, and they know how to manage themselves in La Liga very well. Villarreal to win and over 1.5 goals in this game. This is my bet, 183.
I totally agree. Indeed, Villarreal very likely to play again the Champions League next season. Then we have Girona, Osasuna, another two teams in the relegation battle. Good news for Girona, finally outside the bottom three after being the whole season down, and they have a good chance also now to get points because Osasuna are the worst away team in La Liga with only 2 points. Girona beat Mallorca away. The problem is a little bit at home. 9 points at home for Girona, but I wouldn't touch Osasuna away from Pamplona, Álvaro.
Yeah, I know. The other day against Athletic Bilbao, they were competitive, but what they do at home is totally different to what they do away. Alessio Lizzi, the coach, has to work on that. I'm not too sure what it is. I don't want to say that it's an attitude problem because I don't like to make a statement that I have no idea about, but the numbers don't lie. And as I say, the Roman coach has to address this. Only 2 points away for Osasuna. And for Girona, a big relief just coming out from relegation. They spent 16 weeks there, which is a lot. Not that at home have been great, by the way. Only 9 points for Girona at home. But I can see that Girona can score on a good day. That's for sure. Not that they are a high scoring side. But, if you check the numbers, you can see that at home they can do it. So, they concede a lot too. 34 goals conceded. This is a crazy amount of goals conceded. 34. This is great. I can see this game being like a 2-1 for Girona, kind of, more or less, with Osasuna just keeping up their bad form away, maybe 1-1. But Girona's defense is so poor that normally I am very inclined to think that they are going to concede. And on the other hand, Girona at home is capable of scoring. So here, probably I'm contradicting a little bit myself because I say from La Liga that this is a low scoring league. I'm going to go for both teams to score. Plain and simply because Girona creates scenarios for you to score goals because they make a lot of mistakes, and even the goalkeeper is a goalkeeper who has a mistake in him. So it will be both teams to score here, 181.
Yeah, 𝗀𝗏𝗏, probably the worst goalkeeper in La Liga, and even remember Oviedo was a long time ago, but they were able to score plenty of goals in Montilivi. And then we have Valencia Elche. This is a derby, and this is a match ball for Corberán, Valencia's manager, in the bottom three. Valencia, after losing again against Celta in a bad way, winless in 5. 1 win in the last 13 games in La Liga, only the derby against Levante. The players were contested by the supporters, very angry because they see Valencia struggling one season more and with the fear of being relegated and playing now against a team, Elche, Álvaro, still winless away from home this season, doing well at home, but only 3 points away.
Yeah, only 3 points away, which is something that we have to take into consideration. I think that against Villarreal they suffer, and you could really tell that Villarreal ran over Elche. On the other hand, they are a team that if they win at Mestalla, they will end up or they will wrap up the first half of the season with 25 points, which is unthinkable because they've been just promoted. And they've got still a goal difference of +1, which tells you that all in all, 22 points, a +1 goal difference, this team has been exceeding the expectations. Another thing is their trajectory lately, with only 6 points out of the last 15. But there is something that Elche has been doing lately. When they have the opportunity to win a game, they have won it. For example, they did against Rayo Vallecano, beating them 4-0, or 3-0 to Girona, always at home, of course. But they have been able to score goals when it mattered or when they spotted the weakness of the opponent. And Valencia has many weaknesses as well. Let's don't forget, they are in relegation spots, as you said. The part of the fan base is asking the coach to go, sometimes in a very vocal way. And for this game, Duro, which is the nominal number 9, and 𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐴𝐺𝐵 are not going to be available. And when you're missing your number 1 choice goalkeeper and your main striker, things are more difficult. But on the other hand, we had to think that this is some sort of a derby, regional derby, big distance between Valencia and Elche, but still. And sometimes these things matter as well. So ahead of this game, look, there is a bet that I really like, which is over 2 goals, because for all their problems lately, having lost 3 games out of the last 5, Elche has been able to score. And I think Valencia at home at least has to score 1, despite not having Hugo Duro. So over 2 goals, 168 is pretty decent. Our bookies think that this is going to be a low scoring game, and I'm going to try to profit that. And there is another one which is crazy, but I like this storyline in which Elche scores first, and then Valencia, using their pride, using everything they have, just harassing Elche in their own box, they manage to turn the situation around, which is Valencia to win coming from behind. That is 13.0, and if I am very inspired on Friday or Saturday, I may put my money there, because I have seen this game happen sometimes, when the team is against the ropes, fights to get the result back, and at the end they win it. But of course, my nature tells me that over 2 goals is way, way, way more likely, 168.
Danger for Corberán, danger for Valencia. Rumors say that if Valencia don't win, he is gonna be fired, like even if he has the support from the management, from Peter Lim, but perhaps enough is enough. And for Sunday, we have 2 games. Rayo Mallorca, another 2 teams involved in the relegation battle. Rayo 3 points away, Mallorca 2 points away from the bottom 3. Not sure who is in best form, Alvaro, because Rayo has been a while without winning, 4 consecutive draws in La Liga. Also, Mallorca is a hit and miss. Difficult to know this game.
Difficult. I think that this is going to be an under. And this is what I'm going to say. I mean, one of the teams has clearly a striker who is making the difference, like 𝗵𝗵, who has scored half the goals of his team, whereas in Rayo Vallecano, scoring goals is more of a collective effort. I think that Rayo Vallecano has a good style that demands a lot from the players. Maybe they are paying a little bit from the fact that they are involved in more competitions than La Liga. And one thing that happens with Rayo is that in their games there are not many goals. In fact, only in Oviedo's games there has been as little goals as in Rayo Vallecano's games. 35 in Oviedo's games, 35 in Rayo Vallecano's games. 14 scores for Rayo, 21 conceded for Rayo. And I think that this is going to be a low scoring affair, because Mallorca, true, they lost the last game to Girona, but before that they drew against Valencia, they drew against Oviedo, they drew against Osasuna, and they beat Elche. So they are not in a bad form. They are staying in the games at least. So I'm going to go for the first half market, and I'm gonna say that the first half is gonna have under 1 goal, not under 0.5, under 1 goal in the first half, 160. If there is 1 goal, you get your money back. If there are no goals, you win.
Okay, I like this bet. Actually, then we have Levante Espanyol. Here we have really good odds to back Espanyol. Despite the defeat in the derby, they played a really good game. Perhaps they deserve the much more against Barcelona. And very surprising, the victory of Levante and the way they won in Sevilla at home, though. Álvaro, Levante is the worst team in La Liga. Only 2 points.
Only 2 points, exactly. And I think the Espanyol can capitalize here. Espanyol is a better side. Espanyol played really well against Barcelona, with a few players being exceptional. I'm talking about Romero. I wouldn't be surprised if Romero is the first choice left back of Villarreal next season, because he belongs to that club. 𝗛𝗵𝗏𝗏, the goalkeeper, played really well in front of 𝗋𝐞𝐿 and García. By the way, good goalkeeper too. But 𝗛𝗵𝗏𝗏 has been a good addition to Espanyol, I will say. Pere Milla, we have spoken about him. Roberto Fernández, good players, Espanyol. And on top of that, a manager that makes his side competitive in every game. Against Barcelona, I think that the only difference between Barcelona and Espanyol was the quality of the attackers, and the fact that Hansi Flick in the second half could bring out footballers of the caliber of Olmo, Fermín, Lewandowski, and Barcelona won the game. But Espanyol, I think that they were better for 70 minutes, really. And I don't want to take anything away from Barcelona, but Espanyol was very good. And coming into this game, look, I have to check the numbers very quickly. Levante has changed managers this season. Levante has 20 points less than Espanyol, and Levante at home has been really poor. So I'm going to go for, without taking a massive risk, a draw no bet for Espanyol, 165. Sounds to me like a good one. Otherwise, I could up it to an Asian handicap minus 0.25 for Espanyol, or plain and simply a win for Espanyol. That's something that it wouldn't be crazy either. But a draw no bet for Espanyol, 165, sounds to me like the kind of conservative bet that you will be very happy about on Monday morning when you cash out your money.
Totally, really good one. And then we have Sevilla Celta for Monday. Tricky one, this one, because also Sevilla is in turmoil, as we said. Really ugly defeat against Levante. The team is not risking relegation, I think, but only 4 points away from Valencia, so they have to be careful. Now suddenly also the manager is contested, but the crisis is deep in the club, trying to get it solved as quickly as possible, with a lot of sport mistakes in the planning of this squad. Álvaro, it's been happening for years and years, and I just remember, for instance, Mendilibar getting sacked, and they received Celta de Vigo, a tricky team right now to play against, because they are growing in the season. They have a lot of quality, and they are very close to the European spots now.
They are close to the European spots. Celta started the season drawing a lot of games, do you remember?
Yep.
But lately they have been able to win those games that they would have drawn in September. We remember them beating Real Madrid, then they beat Athletic de Bilbao. I mean, those were back-to-back wins. I mean, if you beat Real Madrid and then Athletic de Bilbao, you know that you are in a good moment, because Athletic de Bilbao hasn't been good this season, but they have certainly been competitive. Athletic is only, 2 points behind Celta, and Celta beat them easily. In the last game, Celta beat Valencia 4-1. Celta scores goals, and we know about that. And Sevilla doesn't score many on paper, or that is the perception we have, because then they have scored as many as Celta this season, 24-2. That is down to the fact that when Sevilla has won, they have won convincingly, like for example when they beat Oviedo 4-0. So I think that this game could be an over 2 goals, not over 2.5. I'm not gonna go that far, because there is no need, really. I think the bookies know clearly that La Liga is a low scoring league, but over 2.25 goals between a team like Celta that attacks a lot, and is in a good form, by the way, and a team that's like Sevilla that needs to score and please the fans, and Celta's defense is not the greatest. both teams to score or over 2.25 goals, 2.25 goals, I repeat that, is something I could take. Both paid very similarly, but yeah, both teams to score 183 is something I like.
Okay, Alvaro, well, this is it for our show, La Liga and the Spanish Super Cup. Remember, guys, that you have the chance to place your bets or to write your tips in Oddspedia and participate in our tipster competitions. There is some money to be made in our monthly or yearly competitions. And of course, also you have rivals where you can create, for instance, your own tipster competition about La Liga and play with your friends. Alvaro, let's go with your safe bet.
Yeah, my safe bet is literally coming up very soon because this game is going to be played before La Liga next round, which is Barcelona Athletic Club Bilbao, the Super Cup semi-final. I'm going to go for Barcelona to beat Athletic Club, 150.
Okay, and your ACCA?
Plain and simple, Barcelona to beat Athletic Club and over 2.5 goals in that game, and Villarreal to win. Altogether, 290.
Thank you, Alvaro. Thanks, everyone, for watching. See you next week. Bye-bye.